Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome folks, today the Hungry Gamer is back with another mini, not so mini review. And today we are talking about League of Dungeoneers. Now, the reason that I'm doing a mini review on this is the same reason that I did a mini review of Dungeon Universalis. And that's simply because there's just too much for me to give really any kind of real substantive overview without this video being 30, 45 minutes, an hour. So with that, as always, I'm going to give you just kind of a brief overview of what's going on, and you'll see some video up here in the corner kind of showing just kind of what it looks like. I just recorded myself playing through some of the game. So sorry about that. But what League of Dungeoneers is it is, as near as I can tell, the closest thing you're going to get to Warhammer Quest. Now, I never played Warhammer Quest beyond video game versions of it that you can get out right now, but it is that same idea. It's a lot of bookkeeping as you have your characters, you're kind of moving them about the world, and as you're going about the world, you're going to different places where there are quests. And these quests are specifically dungeon dives, where you're just digging down into this randomly generated dungeon. Now, there's a purpose to the dungeon. There'll be an objective room, and each quest may say remove these different cards or whatever, but each door there's a stack of cards. And that stack of cards represents everything that could be in the dungeon, every corridor, every room. And then when you flip one over, there's a room. There may be a fight in there may not be a fight in there, and on each tile there's specific things you can interact with in general, and it'll tell you how many doors are in the room. And if there's 2 doors in the room, that means the door you came in and the door you go out. So you put that stack of cards behind that next door. But if there are 3 doors in a room, there's a door you came in, there's a door on one side, and you get to place it wherever you want, and another door. So then you're going to take that stack and you're going to divide it in 2. So now all the possibilities, they branch in 2 directions, and so on and so on. And eventually you either find the objective room or you die. Is kind of how it works. Now, as you're going through this game, there are various threats that can happen. And the more things you do, the deeper you get, the higher your threat level goes. And if you roll a 9 or a 10 at the beginning of each turn, you have to make a threat roll. And if you roll below your threat level, then something bad is going to happen, though your threat's going to go down. It might be a wandering monster, whatever. And there's also specific events for if you are not in combat or you are in combat, because you're still doing that while combat's going on. You might have something bad happen to you during combat, and there's optional dungeon room events and so on and so on. Lots of dice rolling, lots of randomness for when things happen. Then, as you're going through, you'll be getting into combat. And as you're getting into combat, it is a D100 system where you're trying to roll low. So each character will have their stats. Their combat skill might be 48. So which means when you're doing your attack, you're trying to roll that D100 under a 48, and then you'll do whatever your damage is. And each of the monsters has their own specific card with their own specific stats, what it takes to hit them, and their abilities, and so on and so on and so on. There is a vast, vast collection of monsters in this game, and a bunch of different standees and stuff that goes with it. And as I mentioned, there is some story that goes with it. You are being sent on specific quests to do specific things, but really the story is being told in little vignettes before and after each quest, and all the quests kind of string together into a chain to complete one small story. But really the purpose of the game is not so much saving the world, rather it is this idea of just growing and surviving and adventuring and leveling up as much as you can before you die, is kind of the idea. And the game comes with 4 different races you can play, and I think 6 different classes that you can play. And that's kind of the gist of it. And then as you're going in between quests, there's a big world map, and you're moving along the map, traveling different places, and depending on where you are, you're going to get opportunities to kind of harvest things out there. Maybe you get some plants that you can use so you can do some alchemy, or you can try to forage for food, and there might be some kind of event that happens. It might be something good, it might be something bad. Again, you're going to roll a dice, and if you roll the right number, you're going to have an event, you're going to draw a card, do whatever it says. Pretty simple stuff. And I got to spend, well, a lot of time with this, but I played through a bunch of different quests, and I built several different characters, and I also played with the Companions expansion, which Michael was kind enough to send me also, which are a bunch of pre-made mercenaries with different stats and bonuses that you can hire and kind of bring with you. So what that allowed me to do was have 2 characters that I actually rolled up from nothing, and 2 pre-made characters that are unique that you can switch out as you want. You just have to pay their rental. You just have to kind of pay their rental charge, as it were. And of course, they might die also, and some of mine died. R.I.P. Three-Fingered Ellie. But that's kind of the core of how it works. And there is a basic magic system, and by basic magic I mean there's a chunk of spells, like this stack of spells, that you can use, and it's pretty simple with what they're going to do, and it's pretty simple how they're cast. And perhaps slightly more interesting to me is there's an alchemist class and alchemy ability that you can get, so you're constantly kind of rolling up these potions that you can have, and it's totally random what you get. You're mixed stuff together. Oh, look, I've made a thing. You don't know what it does when you're making it unless you have a specific recipe for it. But all of that is kind of the world that you're in. So, what do I like about this game? The first thing is I really do like the character creation. It is really enjoyable to make the characters, even though it's pretty scripted. There you have a couple of options of traits that you can get or something like that. It's pretty scripted, but it's really enjoyable to make these characters from scratch. It's really cool. I keep saying it's really cool, really cool. This is a very good video here, but it's very fun to do that. I enjoy it. You really have a lot of control as you progress through your levels of what it is that you're going to do, what you're going to take. And the progression's not really that hard. Once you get into it, it's pretty easy to manage your character development as you go along the way. And there are significant choices, but not an overwhelming amount of choices. And I think for this core game, the starter set, it's right. I don't want to be overwhelmed at the beginning. Now, maybe down the road, I want some more stuff, but for now, happy with all of the way that works. I also enjoy the combat system, though I am going to talk more about the combat system later. There is something both maddening and wonderfully satisfying about this D100 system. As you're doing something, I just rolled a 2 on my attack, so I get to up my combat skill now, so next time I have a 49% chance to hit instead of a 48, which is ridiculous, right? It's 1 out of 100, but it's satisfying. It's satisfying never really knowing what's going to happen, and the way you get bonuses for a 1 to 5 is great, and it's just fun. That's the end result. The combat is just fun. There is a good chunk of tactics to it. If you can get to somebody's rear arc, you're getting a huge bonus. You can climb up on a table, you're getting a good bonus. Shoot them in the back, you're getting a bonus. All of these things, you get behind something when they're shooting at you, they get a negative. All of these things were very, very satisfying, but there's not so many different rules. There's not so many different things that it is completely overwhelming. It's definitely whelming, but it's not completely overwhelming. And I think it's a very good balance of how many rules that you have, how many options you have, so you can feel like you're having dynamic combat, yet at the same time, you're just going to kind of go after it and chase down whatever it is you're going for and chuck some dice and hit some things. Really works well, I think. I also really like the armor system. I mean, I love the armor system. It is armor as damage reduction. And when you get hit, you roll to see where you got hit. Head, arms, legs, chest. And you look at your armor. And you subtract that from whatever damage you get. So I take 3 damage. Well, my armor can take 3, has a 3 reduction. Nothing happens, move on. But if it does 4 damage, well, I'm going to take 1 damage that goes through, and then my armor's going to get damaged. It has a lovely durability thing that goes on here where your stuff gets beat up as you go, and you have to repair it or it breaks. And there is a lovely, terrifying moment as you're in the dungeon and you've been getting wailed on in the chest over and over again. You got 1 durability left, something hits you. You're like, oh my gosh, where's it going to hit me? Oh no, it hit my chest. Your armor breaks. It is very satisfying. And I really do like it. I wish more systems did armor just as damage reduction, move on. I mean, there are plenty that do that, but it's very satisfying. I really like it in this really crunchy kind of game. I also really, really love the exploration. And I know that this is, or I'm pretty sure this is how Warhammer Quest did it also, just the way the stack of cards works. And it's just all the possibilities of this dungeon are in this stack. There's a branch in the fork. You deal them out to the 2 sides. Now it's either way. And it's it's really fun. That's all I can say. It's just really fun because you're building the dungeon however you want. There's enough cards that you don't know what's going to come up. And every door you open, you put the door where you want. So make it fit your table. It's just fantastic. And along with that, the way that all the tiles work and the art that's on the tiles, almost always, that's what's in the room. So you can go interact with that body. You can go interact with this thing. And, well, I'm not going to belabor it. It's fantastic. The functional art on the tiles just really sings. I absolutely love how that works. It's faster, it's easier. It's just close to perfection, the way the exploration works in this game. And then the last thing I'll say that I really do like is I like the length of the little campaigns. There are 5 or 4 quests that you're doing for each one, then boom, you're done, you've wrapped it up, move on to something else. And I think that's just a great length because each of the games, I mean, battles are long. I mean, don't get me wrong, they are long battles. They're 2 hours, 3 hours for a dungeon. They're long. But I just think it works really, really well. It's just the right amount of length to wrap up your story, move on to a new story. Because it's interesting because you're not saving the world, you're just saving little parts of it. You're doing little tasks. And that's also very, very satisfying. It's not this epic long Marvel Phase 4. It's, you know, mini-series, do a thing, move on. It's great, love it. And the last thing I'm going to single out something that I like is I really do like the mercenary system. And I am not clear if you get no mercenaries at all if you don't have the companions expansion, or if you just don't get the named mercenaries, the clever, creative ones. I'm not sure, but I think it's really great because what it does is it makes playing solo more manageable. It's not hard to manage your characters, but it's a little bit fiddly. There's a lot of things going on there. And so as I'm playing 2, I'm only worrying about 2 of them. Where am I getting hit? What's the damage reduction? What ability do I want to do? Which item am I going to use? How much health do I have? There's only 2 of them that I'm doing. The other 2, it just, boom, boiled down to a single card. Everything I need is on there. It just is fantastic. I love that. I like it so much to where I could absolutely see just dealing those out and just diving right in, playing as those, not even worrying about anything for a one-off. Really works well. The last thing I want to say is I like the standees in this one. I like the art for these monsters, for these creatures. It's really good. I really do enjoy it. And you know, in some of the other games like this that I've talked about where I was like, standees, I'm just not feeling them. These I like. It was relatively easy to organize. They're fun to look at. They have the front and the back of the standee, which I love. Those are really, really clever. I like those a lot. And then for one of the first times ever, I'm going to have something that's between a quibble and something that works for me. There's not a lot of art in the book. It's this huge, thick hardback book, which is really cool. Very satisfying to hold this hardback book. But there's very little art in there. This campaign just didn't spend a lot of money on art. Most of the art in the book are painted miniatures, posed, and a picture of them. And I'm of 2 minds. One, like, where's my amazing art? On the other hand, it's charming as hell. I love it. It just shows me that this is a dude that made a game. He's just a dude who put a lot of time and effort into it. And I really like it. But on the other hand, there's not really much art to speak of other than the standees in this game and the art on the tiles. So just something to keep in mind. Now, into my actual quibble. Oh, wait, almost my quibbles. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. I just saw these out of the corner of my eye. One of the other deluxe things that you can get in this game are deluxe doors. And if you know me, I don't usually care about that kind of stuff. In fact, I had for Arena the contest all the 3D walls and stuff, and I sold them off. I sold them to somebody for a song for their D&D or whatever because I just didn't want to deal with it. But these things, especially because it means I got to paint them, but these doors are so awesome. Okay, so we have, first off, just the closed doors, which look great. And then, when you open them, we have these open doors with like the torches on them. I love these things. It's so cool. We get the doors open, you kind of look down and look through and see the path. I love these things. But anyhow, on to my actual quibbles with the game. The first one is, I'm going to start right away. As I said, there's not really much art in the rulebook. That might be something that bothers you. Along with that, there is no art on any of the cards. None of it. It's all text boxes and just information that you need to play. Period. That's all you get. And that might not be what you're looking for. The next thing is the rule book just needed another pass or two. There are some mistakes in the rules. You definitely need to check out the FAQ. There's going to be times you're like, I can't find this. I don't know. I don't know what the answer to this is. It seems like it should be this, but I don't know if that is going to be the answer. There are times where the text on the card doesn't match the text that's in the book because one or the other, when it was changed, it didn't get all the way followed up on. And the last thing I'm going to say is it doesn't have a really functional index. It has an index, but there's like 20 things on it. And to be fair, one of them is the thing that I'm always looking up. The Wandering Monster is always, but there's only a few things in the index. It needs a comprehensive index. Now, it does have some great stuff. It has some great sheets that you have that you can mark on. It has a really useful kind of side rules index that almost has everything you want in there. It has a great bestiary, though some of the rules in there don't match the actual rule. Things like that. There's some very important like quest items that just got left out of the book. And so you have to have the FAQ. And I will say there is an updated PDF that you're able to get and I know in the reprint all that's going to be fixed. And then to the rulebook itself, it's this thick hardback tome, which I love it. And I hate it because it's a thick hardback tome and it's heavy and all of that. So just something to keep in mind. Now, to the substance of the game itself. I think the Overland Adventure, I love the idea. I wish that you got hit with the events more often, because right now it's you roll a d12, 11 or 12 if you're in certain places, or 12 otherwise. And I wish they were a little more common. I wish the Overland Adventure and moving from place to place would just have just ever so slightly more depth. It would make it pop more for me. I enjoy it. I do. I certainly enjoy it. It's clever, it's fun, it's interesting, but I wish it had a little bit more depth. Next thing I'll say is some of the characters, I wish there was more to it. One of the characters I was playing recently is a warrior priest. I love the idea you can do these prayers and just keep these prayers going the whole time. But there's like 4 prayers per level. There's like a total of 16 prayers that you can get, and some of them are just super situational, and I wish that was beefed up a little bit more. Because as far as the wizards go, there's a lot of spells. Not a ton of spells, but there's a lot of different spells. So I wish there was a little bit more oomph to the warrior priest as far as that goes. I enjoy it. I mean, you can pry my warrior priest from my cold dead hands, but I wish there was a little more oomph to that warrior priest character. The next thing that I'm going to say is it's a standard fantasy world, and it falls into one of the tropes that I just think's tired. I'm sorry, fantasy people. I think it's tired and boring. Goblins and orcs are evil, period. Humans and elves and dwarves are good. Like, great, we've done that. Like, let's open that up. Why can't I play a goblin? I want to play a goblin. Yeah, you know what, Michael? Because he cares. I want, for the next campaign, work with me. Let me create for you a mercenary goblin, barbarian. We call him the Hungry Goblin, and he'll throw things. Oh no, he's clearly an alchemist, right? He's going to mix up stuff that he can drink and eat and potions. He's going to throw stuff, and if he's angry, he's going to bite you. But he's a good guy. He's there to help. There's no reason why it can't be. I love the idea of subverting tropes. I mean, let's be real. What is arguably the most popular, depending on who you talk to, character in Dungeons & Dragons fantasy literature? Drizzt. The whole point is he's the evil race who's the good guy. People are all about it. And I know other areas and other games are moving away from this trope of this is evil, this is good. Let's do that. Let's do that here. Give me more options. And along with that, even if you're not willing to let me play a goblin, right? Let me play a gnome. Let me play some other types of humans. Let's open up the races to different things. Not necessarily more classes. I think the classes are great, but let's open that up to allow people to tell their stories. Now, you might not care about that. It's something that kind of grinds my gears, but just something to think about. You are limited to a very standard fantasy world as far as it goes, and hopefully there'll be some opening up of that later on. Then the last 2 things I'm going to say is, I've already alluded to this, battles in dungeons can be very long, especially if you wind up having to go through all of the cards to find the objective room, which has happened to me the last several times I've played. It's long. It's not fast. It's going to take you 2 hours in a dungeon unless you just zip right to the end room by luck. So it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to be long. It's going to be, I don't want to say arduous because it's fun. It's satisfying, but it's going to be long. It's not a quick game. There's a lot of different things that you have to make sure you track. The more you play, the easier it gets, but there's lots of stuff that you do have to keep in your head. And with the index not being as great as it could be, it's a little slower to look those things up, especially early on. Though, as I said, it does get faster. And the last thing is combat's swingy. Right? I always talk about how games that use a D20 system, it feels very swingy, even if the math doesn't math out, just feels swingy. Let me tell you, the D100 feels so swingy. And I get it. It's just like a D10 system, but it just feels super swingy. And there's going to be those times, as happened to me, when you're like, okay, I got a 50-50 to hit. I got 2 attacks. Whiff, whiff. Okay, fine. Next turn. And I'm going to get it. Whiff. Whiff. Fine. Next turn. Whiff. Drop your sword. You know, it's going to happen, and it's going to feel frustrating. But at the same time, it happens to the bad guys too, and all of that. But it's a D100 system, which feels the swingiest of swingy, even if the math says it's not exactly super swingy. And as you go through the game, you level up, you get stronger. That does calm down, and you start to really feel like a hero. But that's it, folks. That is League of Dungeoneers. I'm high on this. And if you remember, I covered Dungeon Universalis a little while ago, and I was high on that too. And both of these games live in that world for me. It's very sandboxy. It's very much kind of go do what you want to do. I don't feel bad if I wanted to house rule League of Dungeoneers. I would say I did not incorporate any house rules into League, though I did a bunch in Dungeon Universalis. This is not nearly as crunchy as Dungeon Universalis, but it truly is this open world sandbox. Characters are satisfying. The combat is satisfying. I really like it. I think if you are looking for that old school feeling, the old school vibe, old school dungeon crawl, you're looking for that Warhammer Quest type feeling, you have found it. It is a beautiful project. It's got warts, but man, it is full of love. It's full of effort, and it's one that I really am looking forward to getting back to. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I got a problem now, because now I got this staying on my shelf. I got Dungeon Universalis staying on my shelf, and I did not think I would ever hold on to both of them. But they're both doing something that is different for me. They're both beautifully, perfectly imperfect. And I think if you're a true dungeon crawl fan, then this is one that you need to check out. Check it out close, because it might not be what you're looking for. This is not a streamlined affair. This is not a slick game, but it's a good game. And it's one that I definitely recommend checking out if you're a big old dungeon crawl nerd like I am. So there you have it, folks. That is League of Dungeoneers. As always, if you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe even join the membership program. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.